Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into a story that captures one of the most consequential shifts in modern military history, a journey from a period of relative stability to a moment where two of the world's most powerful naval forces are testing the limits of each other's influence. The title is From Calm to Crisis, China's Unprecedented Challenge to the U.S. Navy, and this review will take you through its outer presentation, the glimpses it gives us from the inside, the performance it highlights, the safety nets each side is relying upon, the unique draws that make this piece stand out, the price tag that underpins this contest, and a conclusion that leaves us with more questions than answers. This is a film, but it's also a mirror showing the world's shifting power dynamics in real time. The first thing that strikes you is the exterior. In cinematic terms, the exterior here isn't just what a ship looks like, it's the facade of a strategy, the outer face of national ambition. The film opens with sweeping shots of vast shipyards along China's coast, gantry cranes lifting entire ship sections into place like puzzle pieces, and entire fleets in formation cutting through the sea. You see massive hulls, clean angular lines that betray a focus on stealth, and carrier decks stretching hundreds of meters, with fighters parked in tight precision. These images aren't just about military capability, they're a form of communication. In naval strategy, presence is power, and the film makes sure we feel that. When you see a Type 055 destroyer's radar domes rotating under a bright Pacific sun, you understand that what's on display is as much about deterrence as it is about defense. What makes the exterior so powerful in this story is its scale and speed. The documentary repeatedly draws attention to the pace at which these ships have appeared. 15 years ago, China's navy was regional and largely defensive. Now, it's blue water capable, able to project power thousands of miles from home. That transformation is underscored by visual comparisons: older vessels shown alongside the sleek lines of new frigates and carriers, with the difference in capability almost leaping off the screen. The exterior also extends to operational presence: aircraft carriers shadowed by destroyers, flotillas moving in tight formation, amphibious assault ships loading vehicles for exercises. All of this paints a picture of a navy designed not just to protect coastlines, but to shape events far beyond them. Inside, the glimpse is short but telling. We get a few seconds in command centers, where banks of screens display tracking data and digital maps glowing in soft blues and greens. Officers in crisp uniforms lean over consoles, speaking into headsets with quiet urgency. The spaces are tight, metallic, and meticulously organized, an environment where discipline and precision are everything. We see mess halls with stainless steel trays, cramped sleeping quarters stacked with bunks, and sailors moving with practiced efficiency. It's a reminder that behind every vessel, every missile, every radar sweep, are the people whose training, judgment, and coordination turn metal into strategy. This interior peek is brief, but it's enough to humanize the story, showing that beneath the hardware are thousands of individuals living the daily reality of naval operations. When we move to performance, the film shifts into overdrive. It's here that the magnitude of the challenge becomes clear. China's Navy, officially the People's Liberation Army Navy, has grown in sheer numbers, now fielding more ships than the U.S. Navy if you count hulls alone. But it's not just quantity. The performance profile includes advanced missile systems capable of threatening ships hundreds or even thousands of miles away, hypersonic glide vehicles that could evade traditional defenses, and integrated surveillance networks that combine satellites, over-the-horizon radars, and drone fleets. The narrative explains anti-access/area denial strategies, showing how layered missile zones could push U.S. carrier groups far from contested waters. The performance also covers deployment tempo: how often Chinese ships are at sea, how far they travel, and how closely they shadow U.S. and allied vessels. There's also the matter of technological sophistication. The film notes advances in propulsion systems for greater range, quieter submarines designed to evade sonar detection, and the adoption of electromagnetic catapults on carriers for faster, more efficient aircraft launches. We see drills where missile salvos are coordinated with air and undersea assets, creating a multi-domain attack envelope. The performance isn't just about attacking, though. There's emphasis on logistics: fleet replenishment ships capable of refueling and resupplying vessels in open waters, allowing longer deployments without returning to port. This kind of endurance is what shifts a navy from a regional force to a global actor. Yet, the film doesn't present performance in isolation. It constantly frames it against the U.S. Navy's capabilities. We see U.S. carrier strike groups conducting their own drills, destroyers testing new missile defenses, and submarines slipping quietly into deep water. The performance here is twofold: the PLA Navy growing into a formidable blue water force, and the U.S. Navy responding by sharpening its own readiness, integrating new technologies like unmanned surface and undersea vehicles, and strengthening coordination with allies in the Indo-Pacific. Safety features in this context are less about life jackets and fire suppression, and more about systems and strategies designed to prevent escalation or absorb an attack. On the U.S. side, the safety net includes forward-deployed forces in Japan and Guam, Aegis-equipped destroyers with layered missile defenses, and advanced early warning aircraft like the E-2D Hawkeye. It's about ensuring that carrier groups can defend themselves against saturation missile attacks and that command and control links can survive in a contested electronic environment. For China, safety features include defensive missile batteries along its coastline, hardened underground naval facilities, and a doctrine of dispersal, spreading ships across wide areas to reduce vulnerability. The documentary also touches on softer safety mechanisms, communication hotlines between militaries to prevent accidental clashes, shared protocols for encounters at sea, and multilateral exercises aimed at building trust, or at least predictability, in how ships behave around one another. In some ways, these features are the thin thread preventing a shift from strategic competition to open conflict. The film makes clear that while the military safety systems are impressive, the diplomatic and procedural safety nets are just as critical. The unique selling points of From Calm to Crisis are several. First, it's rare to see a film that blends the aesthetics of a high-end documentary with the rigor of serious strategic analysis. The visuals are cinematic drone shots over glittering harbors, close-ups of water streaming off a ship's bow, time-lapse sequences of vessels maneuvering into port. But the substance is equally rich: interviews with naval experts, breakdowns of fleet compositions, and clear explanations of strategic concepts like sea control, choke points, and deterrence. The second unique draw is its scope. It doesn't just cover hardware, but also industrial capacity, training pipelines, and the geopolitical context driving the buildup. We hear about China's shipbuilding capacity, the largest in the world, and how its civilian maritime industry doubles as a strategic asset. The third is its timing. This is not a retrospective, it's a snapshot of a live, unfolding competition, which gives it an urgency that keeps viewers leaning forward. Price, in this framing, is both literal and metaphorical. The literal cost of China's naval expansion is staggering billions of dollars in ship construction, research and development, and infrastructure. The film notes that China's shipyards produce not just warships, but the commercial vessels that keep its economy integrated into global trade, a dual-use advantage that keeps costs relatively lower than they might be otherwise. On the U.S. side, maintaining a global naval presence requires constant investment in new ships, refits for existing vessels, advanced weapons systems, and the training of tens of thousands of sailors. There's also the price in diplomatic capital, securing basing rights, strengthening alliances, and negotiating overflight and transit agreements. The metaphorical price is harder to measure but just as significant. It's the cost of heightened tension in a region that's critical to global commerce. It's the risk of miscalculation in crowded waters. It's the shifting of resources from domestic priorities to sustain military readiness. And for both sides, it's the possibility that an arms race at sea could spiral into something neither intended but both prepared for. The film doesn't push a particular view on whether this price is worth paying, it simply lays out the stakes and leaves viewers to decide. By the conclusion, the journey from calm to crisis feels both inevitable and precarious. We've gone from images of serene blue seas to tense standoffs in narrow straits, from quiet docks to bustling shipyards turning out warships at record speed. The film closes with a visual metaphor: two carrier groups, one Chinese and one American, separated by miles of ocean but bound together by the same waters. There's a quiet recognition that while no shots have been fired, the strategic confrontation is already underway. The calm is gone, and what replaces it will be determined not just by who has more ships, but by who navigates the crisis with skill, restraint, and foresight. It's a rare film that manages to be visually stunning, intellectually rigorous, and emotionally resonant. By giving us both the steel and the human stories behind it, From Calm to Crisis becomes more than a military documentary, it's a case study in how the balance of power shifts, and how those shifts are perceived by the world. If you're looking for insight into the most important naval competition of our time, you'll find it here. And if you're watching as someone who remembers when the Pacific was considered a relatively quiet theater, you might feel the same undercurrent of unease that